The Proxxon hot wire cutter is an effective tool for tabletop crafters that work with foam materials. Let's take a closer look, starting with the cutting bed. The cutting bed is a smooth, flat metal surface with an imprinted grid. The smaller grids are 10 by 10 millimeters, while the larger grid outlines are 100 by 100 millimeters. The numbers starting at the wire guide are in 10 millimeter increments extending both horizontally and vertically to assist with measurements and the placement of the cutting guide. On the rightmost side of the cutting bed, an imprinted angle diagram is marked in 15-degree increments and decrements, starting at the wire guide, covering a total of 180 degrees. Next, we move on to the overarm, which holds the spool carrier and is attached to the housing by sliding the shorter length of the overarm into a slot located on the left side of the body housing. When I first removed the Proxxon from the box, the spool carrier was attached to the short length of the overarm and needed to be moved to the long side. To accomplish this, you will need to remove the anchor screw, which is used later to attach a wire underneath the body housing. Otherwise, the anchor screw will prevent both the removal of the spool carrier and the insertion of the overarm into the body housing. When inserting the overarm into the body housing, I set the Proxxon up on its side to make the whole process both easier to film and to gain access for attaching the overarm. The fit was snug and required just a little wiggling to get it in place. Once I had the overarm aligned, it was a simple matter of attaching it with one of the included screws. Included in the packaging was this instruction snapshot displaying a red wire and instructions for attaching it to the overarm. Taking the anchor screw I removed earlier from the short side of the overarm, I attached the red wire as per the instructions. Now with the overarm attached, it's time to move on to the next step, setting up the spool carrier and cutting wire. We start by attaching the spool containing the wire to the top of the carrier. First, remove the screw on the top of the carrier, then align the spool with the hole and screw it in place. Make sure the cutting wire is coming off the spool counterclockwise so that it can be fed properly into the groove on the front of the carrier. Unwrap enough wire from the spool so that it reaches the bottom of the body housing. Next, turn the largest knob on the front of the body housing counterclockwise to open the locking clamp for the cutting wire. Feed about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters of wire into the brass guide located in the center of the cutting bed. Then, turn the large knob clockwise to lock the wire in place. Finish tightening the wire by turning the spool on the wire carrier clockwise and lock it in place by tightening the screw. You can adjust the angle of the cutting wire up and down the overarm, but for most applications you will want the wire set perpendicular to the cutting surface. Here I use a carpenter square to align the carrier so the wire sets at the proper 90-degree angle. With the setup of the spool carrier and cutting wire complete, we can move on to the cutting guide, which is made up of the angle gauge and the extension arm. The angle gauge is used to adjust the sitting angle of the extension arm. There are 2 screws on the cutting guide. The inside screw is used to lock the guide into the body housing. The outside screw is used to lock the angle gauge in place. The extension arm is the second part of the cutting guide and is used to assist the crafter when the foam is being cut. The cutting guide can be slid into one of two guide slots located along the short and long side of the housing of the cutting bed. An adjustment screw located on the inside of the angle gauge will need to be loosened to slide the cutting guide into the guide slots and then tightened to hold the cutting guide in place. The angle is adjusted using the angle adjustment screw located on the outside of the angle guide. The control panel is located on the front of the body housing. Starting left and moving right, we have labels describing the approximate cutting width in millimeters by power level. The first and largest of the two control knobs is used to clamp the cutting wire to the body housing. Turning the knob to the left counterclockwise loosens the clamp and frees the wire. Alternatively, a clockwise turn tightens the clamp on the cutting wire in the body housing. Nestled between the two control knobs is the power indicator light. Beside the power indicator light is the temperature control knob, which adjusts the heat of the cutting wire and the cutting width as indicated on the power and thickness chart located to the left side of the body housing. The last control on the far right is the on-off switch. And with that, we're done. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting the thumbs up button. Or if you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the dislike button. Leave a comments down below. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you'd like to see more of. Or if you had questions about the video I didn't cover, just let me know. If you think you'd get something out of this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And until next time, keep crafting and have fun.